Kashmir has a rich and diverse craft tradition nurtured over centuries. These traditions provided a means of livelihood to a sizable community of artisans. Chateaus held a pride of place among these arts and crafts. The chateaus that artisans crafted to clothe the royalty received extravagant praise from all corners of the world. Chateaus is the most exquisite and expensive fabric. It is woven from the fleece of Tibetan antelope, locally called Chirus. The availability of the fleece is limited, and the process of converting it to fabric is highly skilled and difficult. The fiber is only 1/5 the thickness of a human hair. The value placed on chateaus can be gauged by the fact that the agreement for the sale of Kashmir in 1846 by the East India Company to Gulab Singh, who became the Maharaja thereafter, included 6 chateaus shawls per annum in perpetuity. The shawl industry was exploited by the then rulers, who sought to tax at a 300% rate levied on 125,000 artisans, enabling Maharaja to pay the installments to East India Company. Later, the Maharaja gave the sole license for production of shawls to Raj Kak Dhar for a fixed sum per annum. This overburdened the industry, and lives of artisans got detrimentally affected. When the artisans peacefully protested, 28 of them were killed by the Dogra army over the bridge Haji Ratharsum over Kitai Kol at Zaldagar. While the International Labour Day commemorates the death of one man killed during a strike in Chicago, no memorial exists for these 28 killed. People believe they lie buried here.
It was Budibab. Them soon more. Sos karan pashminas tebina demo. You thought Terika Gamusakara, so you go at Haji Ratharsum. The Tadoran of Muchanes Patakian, I say to go with Timon Petan Zati. Cas Timon was to Vatan, can't cheesa. Any Timon was I got Ropayos Asan Timonos Vata Akan.
Many struggles followed, and rights to a fair deal were forever denied. The charkha is the symbol associated with India's freedom struggle. In Kashmir, it stands witness to the economic freedom of poor women. They spun chatouche for kings and queens. This model of self-help has been crucial to the sustenance of many families till date.
It is 100% women-based, cottage-based, family-based operation. So you have to accept it. Obviously, it resulted in women empowerment. And we, as you know, in Kashmir, we had this problem of premature death of young men historically. We had a widow culture here. And women were perforce had to resort to some occupation. Now in cities, where we had ashraf, where we had women who wouldn't go out in fields, they had to have some pursuit, some economic activity, and this came in handy.
Yim ٲسۍ مےٚ لۄکٕٹۍ دۄن بَچَن چھَنہٕ مٲلۍ سٕنٛز پَتہ کِہیٖنۍ لۄکٕٹۍ بٔڑ ہِش بٔچی ٲس آسان سۄ ٲس یِہوٚے 9 ؤرِش 8 ؤرِش تام ییٚلہِ مول چھُکھ موٗدمُت پَتہٕ چھُ مےٚ عیال پولمُت ییٚتہِ پٮ۪ٹھ ژوٚر ٲسٕس نہٕ کَران تہٕ کَم ٲسٕس کَران مگر ییٖتِس کالَس یِمَن یہِ نیتُر کوٚر 5 بَچَن أتی لٔڑکی چھِ آسان واریاہ حِساب چھِ بَچہِ تہِ چھِ زٮ۪وان مگر لفظہِ کوٚر مےٚ أتھۍ پٮ۪ٹھ بیٚیہِ نہٕ حظ کٲنٛسہِ مےٚ کوٚرُکھ زارٕ پَر ژٕ اَنہٕ مۄنٛڈٕ پھَنٛڈ مےٚ مون نہٕ مےٚ دوٚپ بَچہِ بَڑَن یِمَن ما دی کانٛہہ پام रातले ٲसٕस नہٕ बہٕ شۄنٛگان کِہیٖنۍ रातले ٲسٕس بہٕ پٔتۍ کِنۍ یٔنٛدٕر رَٹان برٛونٛٹھ یٔنٛدٕر رَٹان بٕتھِ پٔتۍ کِنۍ یہِ عیال اوسُم نا لۄکُٹ لۄکُٹ دَپان ٲسٕس اگر بہٕ وَدٕ یِمن گژھِ یِہوے نہ یِم ما گژھن بٮ۪مار وٮ۪مار ٲسٕس پَتہٕ شامَس کَتھان راتَس یہِ چھَنہٕ رات تہٕ دۄہ وٕچھمُت کینٛہہ ییٖتِس کالَس یِم بمب نیہِ
Historically, the fleece was obtained from Tibet and the route to Kashmir was through Ladakh. Kashmir had exclusive rights to the Shatush fiber. The shawls produced were in demand from all over the world.
लद्दाख के राजा और फिदाई खान के दरमियान एक एग्रीमेंट हो गया जिसको माहिदा तिमुज़गाम कहा जाता है। उस माहिदे में यह था कि चांगथांग के जो ऊन और पश्मीना है सिवाय कश्मीरियों के किसी को वो बेचा नहीं जाएगा। हिमाचल वालों को पंजाब वालों को किसी को नहीं दिया जाएगा, सिर्फ कश्मीरियों के ही।
Well, Shatush traditionally used to come via Ladakh. Substantial quantities used to come via Ladakh only. Ladakh is on the main trade route towards Tibet, Trans-Himalayas. And the material, this was almost the first resting place when they would cross from Tibet, where there was a town, there were facilities of sarais. There was also a regulatory mechanism for Shatush trade, which was being regulated from Leh. Taxes were levied and collected from Leh. So there was a requirement of these traders staying in Leh, and the trade obviously used to be conducted through Leh by traders of Leh or by traders of Tibet, both. In fact, there was a tradition that we had a safarat which is known as Lolaab check, which used to go every 2 years to Tibet from Leh. It was diplomatic, it had a diplomatic aspect to it, but most of it was commerce and commercial.
The abode of the Chiru is Daulat Beg Oldi, DBO, and Changchenmo, the Tibetan plateau within Indian control. It is high up the Himalayan range at altitudes of 17,000 feet, 5,000 meters above sea level. This bleak land between India and China-controlled Tibet is its habitat. The temperatures in winter are sub-zero. The Chiru have adapted to the weather and developed an inner coat, the fleece, to protect itself from the bitter cold. George Schaller, Director of Science at the Wildlife Conservation Society, New York, who gained exclusive access to Tibet, reported that Chirus are killed for their fleece. One Chiru produces just a little more than 100 grams of raw fleece annually. The dwindling numbers of the Chiru and suspicions of it being slaughtered for its undercoat, the fleece, has brought international pressure from wildlife enthusiasts and conservationists. The J&K government, under a special provision, responded by amending the prevailing laws and banned production of shatus in 2002. Now, Chiru is Schedule 1 animal, meaning highly endangered.
Ladakh is only a small portion of the Tibetan plateau. So here only 250 to 300 is reported. For last 5-6 years we have been doing survey. Every year we do survey. And only in July, August, small fraction of the population comes towards the Indian territory. So it is only very small fraction. But on that basis we can't make generalized statement about his population, his ecology.
Somebody expressed his view and that was taken note of by the government here without any further investigation.
There is complete ban on trade of shatus or its products in Jammu and Kashmir or in any part of the country or in any part of the world.
An age-old heritage craft is now at its end. This ban is a culmination of a series of measures against shatus. This is Badamwari, the almond grove at the heart of Srinagar. A site for celebration of the coming of spring and a picnic spot for generations of Kashmiris. And this is Waris Khan's Chak, the well. It once called up horrifying images of hapless people being thrown in. The new avatar makes a pretty monument of a past. While an age-old craft linked to the identity of Kashmir is languishing, a new synthetic heritage is being foisted in the name of a natural heritage. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, the CITES banned shatus, 1979. China banned shatus, 1989. India banned shatus, 1995. Jammu and Kashmir banned shatus in 2002.
We feel that this is basically to take our identity of Kashmir, particularly in the context of that this item was exclusively made in Kashmir. And we had the only expertise or the history of making this fabric.
Certainly, the trade was exclusively to Kashmir. You know, the art of weaving that fine fiber into such a fine fabric or thread or yarn, it was only, perfected by the craftsmen of Kashmir over centuries.
It is under the prohibition of trade or commerce in trophies, animal articles, which is a Chapter 4A of J&K Wildlife Protection Act of 1978, amended up to 2002, that the ban has come into force, and there has been an intervention also in the SLP of the Honorable Supreme Court, wherein the orders have been passed that within a time frame, the time was given to the bona fide users. The cutoff date was 12th month, December 2005.
A small measure of relief has been granted. The shawls and other shatus products from before the ban are sought to be identified and electronically tagged. It is hoped that these shawls will not be traded since their ownership is now recognized globally. The lifestyle and investment of the rich and famous is protected, but no protection is available for almost 500,000 artisans involved in the craft. They will face prosecution if they weave shatus. For auction hammers, the certificates of ownership will be a bonanza and will generate sizable wealth to owners and beneficiaries. Also, it is unimaginable wealth when the declared 76 kg shatus wool would be certified as to its owner.
Whatever declarations had been made, we conducted door-to-door surveys and verified the stuff and given the certificate of ownership in the prescribed format.
Anything found illegal will be confiscated and prosecution will be started.
The weaver, who is weaving, he doesn't know from where the wool comes. So for him, it's a question of occupation and survival.
Any information we receive, we immediately react on that.
There is no evidence as yet scientific to show that wool of this animal is obtained other than killing.
Nobody has scientifically been able to exactly pinpoint whether the animal is killed and then it is obtained, or it is shed normally.
This is the unfortunate part of the whole thing. You see that something like this happens. Normally, people all over the world safeguard their old art.
Once it comes to notice of the government enforcing the law, it will be a punishable offense.
Smuggling, illegal trade, but these traditional roots do not know these terminologies.
Whenever there is some issues of Kashmir, leave aside political part of it, the economic part of it. The government of India doesn't take proper care.
Our policy has not to be anti-people.
Environmentalists has a lobby, so they do make good lobby to convince the government.
Find ways and find byways by which we can still remain attached to it.
We need to have a fact-finding team from both the countries.
When the Prime Minister visited Valley in November 2004, all these people who were affected, hundreds of families or more than they were affected, and they met the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister assured to look into it.
We were able to convince the Prime Minister to, have this subcommittee, new subcommittee, the subcommittee to reassess it all. And unfortunately, it was packed with bureaucrats and people from the World Wildlife Authority, and we had one vote only. Naturally, we were overruled in those deliberations.
Zanan asna tos saran, kore as saran. Kyazim kore 12 tane 13 tane por tim kya as karan pata. Tind khatra ma as nokri bicharan. Tim as tos saran vain. Suyel bicharan bande gok tos vain chitim hechan yata bichar indar katan. Tas pech krapi 3 rapi 4 pevan dohas. Tim bichar hud pairit lekhit achanut gosh golok. Kya chwana pat bicharan banayek nokri. Tim dichma ki hoy kam karan. Commanda os at petan paknawan gara. Yimana khandar mari.
Shashtos on this band. Yos animo band dapana shi janab icha kya wana imacha janwaran mara. Pachiman tuna moon te chu ye banawan shashtos. Yos jo janwar hin socha janwar chin mara kya shi karan ya kya shi karan. Magar insan hin sochna wo janab kiya. Insan hin sochna kiya. Asida tar per shashtos per aswar panu kaim da zena ayal wala asal per paknawan.
The economic problems arising out of this have given rise to a number of conspiracy theories.
What we feel today of economic blockade from our Jammu part, we feel that, tomorrow it will be the handicrafts. Today, we are our main industry, 3 industries are main industries here in Kashmir. One is handicraft, second is, horticulture, and third is tourism. In revenue generation, horticulture is number 1 as such, and handicraft number 2nd and number 3rd. Horticulture, you are seeing the fate today, and is already going down the drain. Tourism already gone. So 3rd will be handicraft. So they have started some time back under a certain plan. We feel so.
मैं कहता हूँ हजारों लोग जो इस पर पले हुए थे, उनके जो आर्ट है, उनका जो आर्ट है ये बनाने का, ये किसी जगह और नहीं था. और बेचारे वो सफ़र कर रहे हैं आजकल हज़ारों की तादाद में. एक फैमिली का हेड होता था एक आदमी, उसके पीछे 5 आदमी होते थे, उसके पीछे 10 आदमी थे. वो वीव करता था, इसको बुन रहा था, इसके ऊपर सोजनी का एम्ब्रॉयडरी हो रही थी, इसके ऊपर उनको भी बेकार बना दिया गया. इस तरह लाखों लोगों का रोज़गार छिना गया. वो क्या साजिश है वो तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को पता होगी.
Whether it was done purposely by China to control the wool, the textile market in the world. As you know, Pashmina, 90% of the Pashmina production is in from China. And they wanted to have Pashmina to become number 1 in the world. So the only stumbling block was Shatush. So allowing a photojournalist of National Geographic, as per our reports, to a particular area where nobody was allowed by China, allowing him documenting things, showing certain proofs, and on that basis World Wildlife Authority creating the necessary justification for putting a ban on a product.
We have brought to the notice of Prime Minister that this is war between China and India on wool textile. the Chinese want Pashmina to be the #1 wool in the world. Kashmir was #1. This is basically that. And India was silent, as usually India doesn't want to fight, says Ashok Kumar, Vice President, Wildlife Trust of India.
We have requested through Chamber, the government of India, let us import it from China. Let us have a dialogue between India and China. And let us request China to give us whatever you give us, whatever you have, we will import it on permission basis. We'll import it at a reasonable rate. Whatever you will tell us, we'll going to purchase. But there has been no answer.
If you are really want to have this trade, I think we need to have a fact-finding team from both the countries and see how it can be procured from China, legally processed. Everything should be legalized.
It was taken up with the Ministry of External Affairs whether we can visit the China and the Changtang area or western Tibet area, because China is also signatory to the CITES, so they have also, they are also concerned. So it is lying at present at that stage.
We are not going to be given access to that part. The meeting, the subcommittee which was reassessing it, what the final conclusion was that we will go to the other part. That was also about 2 years back. And 2 years there has been no headway because the External Affairs Ministry most probably has not taken it up at all. Or naturally, because of being a Kashmir problem, it is dithering when there is an advantage of Kashmir.
A number of representations have been made to reconsider the ban. The example of Japan has been cited for its vigorous defense of its whaling industry. Japanese argued that ban on whaling is an attack on the very foundation of centuries-old Japanese culture. Tradition and a culinary heritage have been used to circumvent the ban on whaling, and whale meat is available all over Japan. Conservationists say that there is little science in this scientific killing of the whales. Japan's whaling program is about business and politics, but not sound science, says the WWF.
The Japanese government fought with the worldwide authorities that they have to allow a certain percentage for the delicacies. While as on this side, on this case, we have people of 3 lakh people or 5 lakh people, 3 to 4 lakh people directly involved with the manufacturing and marketing of this product. And our economy, and we had a monopoly on a certain item, it is not taken care of at all.
Whether you are banning or not banning, it is a political decision plus the conservation decision also. So it is a decision taken at the highest level. So environmentalist has a lobby. So they do make a good lobby to convince the government.
The history of Chattus has been unique. It has been extraordinary in price, in skills needed in the lifestyle. Now it is extraordinary in terms of restrictions and threatened livelihoods. It needs to be seen whether the ban on production of Chattus shawls is causing any increase in the numbers of the animals. Is the production of Chattus the only reason that the Chiru numbers are falling? The production of this fabric has been an age-old tradition. The volumes were much higher earlier. Why is it that only now numbers of animals have come down from a few million to an estimated 60,000?
Chiru is not only obtained for wool, it is obtained for its horns, its antlers, because they sell in Beijing and Lhasa. They are very much valued in the Chinese, Chinese Tibetan medicine. They are very much valued. So animal could be killed for that also. They are killed for the hide, which sells roughly around nowadays about $100 US, I am told, per hide. They are killed for the meat, also. So the animal could be killed for all these things. So one of them could be plucking its wool and selling it where it is in demand. So the whole I think the whole blame cannot be put on the shawl itself.
When there's a commercial killing, commercial poaching, then you kill in thousands and thousands. So I think so that on the other side, it is according to the Mr. Scheller.
I don't think there has been any kind of systematic research into looking into this matter and finding out what actually the truth of this argument is, in response to the ban on shatush from the other side, which says that the animal is being actually killed for the craft and shatush craft.
There has been no scientific research. I should admit one thing, that from the wildlife department also, intensive research has to be done regarding this shahtoos, deriving of shahtoos from chiru. Much work has not been done.
The conclusive recommendation is that chiru is killed, but not in Jammu and Kashmir. It is killed outside Jammu and Kashmir. We take pride in saying that there is no single case of chiru killing which has been reported in the state of Jammu and Kashmir.
Chirus are travelers, unmindful of territorial controls that nations have enforced. It needs investigation that why Chiru run away from Indian-controlled Tibetan plateau when it is said that they find the same climatic conditions as in Tibet, and more so when there are no poachers. The influx of the Tibetan refugees after the Chinese occupation of Tibet has increased the pressure of the human population and its livestock on a once sparsely populated area. This started in 1950s. The grazing system and land use in Ladakh began to change, and number of new settlements increased dramatically. All indigenous species have been affected. The Tibetan wild ass Kiang is one example. The wars and the continued presence of the army have taken their toll.
Not only, the Chiru, there's a lot of wildlife due effect with the presence of army, because they don't care. As the army came, you will find hundreds of dogs. What they for? They're just for waiting for the food. So when they don't get a food, what they do? They kill either the domestic, the catered animals like sheep, goats, or the cows, or they hunt for the, rare species, in jungle. So an army make also a lot of trouble, The reason they don't keep or they don't understand what is exactly the environment. Where they came, they are full of garbage. And I saw it because I've been in Somuridi place called, and it's a wetland. They came around the wetland.
Wildlife experts report that the situation further deteriorated with Sino-Indian War in 1962 when military personnel arrived in large numbers. Both the nomadic Tibetans and under-provisioned armed forces relied on wild ungulates for meat, and they were regularly hunted in the remote border areas of Changthang. A new threat looms. The government's aggressive promotion of Changra goats has intensified the grazing pressure in the region. These goats produce pashmina. Now Pashmina goats are sought to be cloned and their numbers increased. It is aimed that each of the cloned mother types will produce 40 to 50 offsprings annually instead of one at present. These would compete for the same habitat. Besides overhunting, starvation, and habitat degradation, there are other reasons for reduction in numbers. The reasons beyond human intervention, like unpredictable weather and genetic problems.
Species are getting extinct. We have our hangul, which is the only red deer species which is found in Kashmir only, worldwide. Only 200 to 250 are left. It is at the verge of extinction. A lot of researches are going on why it is getting. It is not only poaching. There are genetic reasons, there are habitat shrinkage, there are other many reasons.
Lack of research, particularly by the J&K government, more so as it concerns Kashmir's heritage industry, is alarming. An industry with significant economic importance that has been built over 650 years by numerous skilled artisans is now threatened. It is said that the fleece from 5 animals is required for each shawl. Given the much higher volumes of shawls produced earlier, no Chiru would be left alive today if they had to be killed for their fleece. This throws up the possibility that some quantity of shatus were available because of annual molting. Research is urgently needed.
Our contention is that since centuries, we have been obtaining it, and we believe that it is, obtained naturally. The animal sheds it, and it is not obtained by killing.
In many animals you have this, they shed the winter coat during springtime. And in Chiru also this happens. In springtime they shed, but that shedding takes place gradually.
Historically, all of us know that the fiber gets molted. As it gets molted in the Pashmina goat, it also gets molted out of Chiru. So some quantities are naturally, through a natural process, available. Now, is this quantity removed by catching this Chiru, slaughtering it, or there are other ways like these Kashmiri traders or even Moorcraft has perhaps mentioned it, that it gets entangled into bushes and thorns. Some quantity must be available. What is that quantity? I don't know, because we haven't looked at it. I'm sure nobody in India would tell you what's that quantity. But it is an option which is worth exploring.
From Indian side is hardly any. And the Akshachin area, maybe earlier it must be, because that is the Akshachin area is a habitat for Chiru. In those areas it must have been collected.
The last time we have documented the quantities which have been coming was when we were levying taxes on it. That was during Maharaja's period. After that we didn't levy any tax on it.
There has been no regulation for ages, no statistic about trade. Some conservationists dispute that molting provided any substantial quantities of shatus. They maintain that the Chiru are killed for fleece.
What seems to be the view of the trade is that it was not in their interest to kill the animal. It was always in their interest to probably propagate, and take care of the animal so that the trade could flourish.
Yet Tibet to the northwest of Ladakh is believed to be the hub of Chiru skin trade. Government of India, its rules, its bans have limitations.
ये जो इसका फिलीस है इन रूट से स्मगलर होता है, यहाँ पर पहुँचाया जाता है, यहाँ से दुनिया के दूसरे मंडियों तक इनको पहुँचाए जाते हैं चोरी छुपे.
We haven't caught any person in Ladakh, till date. Maybe they must be using Ladakh route or Nepal route or any route. We don't know. So that we cannot say what is the actual condition of smuggling, what is the actual grey market, what is the trade. But the thing is that we don't know exact figures. Therefore, we cannot comment on the things because this is a very sensitive issue.
All the evidence of the life cycle and habitat of the Chiru is from one source, George Schaller, the American naturalist.
Some people quote that they have seen hunters or herdsmen plucking these killed animals. Those are independent reports.
We need to involve wildlife enthusiasts in it. I am sure when they are approached and they are asked to explore this possibility, they would have no objection doing it. It has been their word against our word so far. They claiming that Chiru gets killed and we saying Chiru is not getting killed. I agree with this proposition that some quantities might be available without killing, but you can't trade in these quantities because it is banned.
अगर मैं यतबंद ज़्यादा गवर्नमेंट ज़्यादा दिलचस्पी दिया, पश इशात ओसस बयान वैसा है, फर्क गया.
येल में गुरबत अस बस 12 बजे वथान. बेहु में खुदा सन्ज इधरे. दवान असस में गोस्त कह निश नजर उछन कोर आयालस. या में गोस्त कह कोर अनपढ़ रोजन. दवान असस अगर ब अनपढ़ रोजस निम गछम न रोजन. खानदार रोज जाना रॉपी 5 या रॉपी 3 या पथावा हाथ तथ पे क्या यही है शीन बचन क्या करहा ब.
Peru offers us hope. There, the vicuna, a camel-like animal, was almost hunted to extinction for its wool. The vicuna fabric, famed for its softness, warmth and lightness, was once the exclusive wear of the Peruvian royalty. The slaughter of these animals saw their number dropping to about 6,000 in 1965. CITES placed vicuna in Schedule 1, meaning highly endangered. A ban was imposed and the production of vicuna cloth was stopped and the trade in the wool internationally restricted. Conservation measures were adopted. Now, the population of the animals has gone up to 200,000 and the Peruvian highlanders, like their Lucana ancestors, capture the vicuna, shear them and release them.
Vicuna traders were able to convince CITES Secretariat that about 3 to 4 quintals of vicuna are obtained without killing the animal. So, after due investigation and process, it was established that this quantity is available and now they are trading in that quantity of vicuna, which is again a very specialty fiber, a very soft fiber.
Vicuna wool is available again after a gap of 34 years. Vicuna is the most expensive wool fabric today. Captive breeding programs could be tried. We could try better management of the free-range population, difficult as it would be considering its range on both sides of the border. We could control the loss of habitat. We could educate the people to promote a sustainable management of the Chiru.
Why we want to go to China is also to explore the possibility of breeding, of examining whether Chiru could be bred in controlled environment.
Helen Leavesley, scientific officer with Care for the Wild International in the UK, who was responsible for revival of vicuna, says there are differences between the two animals. The climate of the Chiru's natural habitat is colder than that of the vicuna. The Chiru would not survive if its protective coat is removed. But nobody knows for sure. There isn't enough research. When the most precious wool, like that of the vicunas, can be produced, then why not of Chirus? The long-term viability of many Chiru populations would increase when its benefits percolate to the local people and they have an interest in its survival. The craft can be revived. It would preserve artisans' expertise and allow them to continue a life of dignity.
सोरे खुदा सु हिफाजत असली ना अगर सानो अगर जेनान अगर बह तुम पन बह ये आवो 3,000 ज्यादा गए पेवान रेतस की 3,000 ज्यादा यानी कि वरियस आवो तुम मे लिखित खुदा सज मेहरबानी तो पकान
कहानी पश्मीन तथ मज आए बड़ बात बदकिस्मती तथ लगो प्रिंट गोडनिक प्रिंट मशीन यस राजबाग तम पे नौशार राजबाग पे नौशार या तम करान पश्मीनस पे छाप त्रावान पे करान अमिस रगबरस अंद सा लाइन कर सह बड़ बदकिस्मती ब्या आए तथ रपी लाशस मजूर सह वात 30,000 पे
There is increasing competition from machine-made and printed fabrics. Similar fabrics made elsewhere are labelled Kashmiri, a recognized brand name. The Kani shawls are printed today, not woven, where the expertise added value to it. Unequal competition has taken away the livelihood opportunities.
कुन जोन ये कड़गर आमिस लगन 7 रेत वनस कस रेत 7 रेत 60,000 रुपये निवान ये मजूरी 60,000 रुपये दिवान ये महाजन मजूरी अमिस बनावनस यह करान बचन दोन रटान खानदारनी रटान सपान ये करो हमतो समतो अमिस 7 रेतों बजाय 5 रेत लगन यह अयाल पालान खुशहाल पे तो सारी फैसिलिटी अयालस मैसर यह मशीन प्रिंट कोर्मुत ये 500 रुपये लगमत.
Fear of the artisan community is very justified because that's what they have seen happen most of the time. In various other areas where technology has come and taken over, and people who have been working with certain honor and pride, producing themselves and making something themselves, have just been reduced to laborers.
The mechanization of the process has robbed the artisans of their livelihood. This is being done in Kashmir and Punjab, but always sold as a Kashmiri product. The name Kashmir sells. Once it provided livelihood to almost 90% of Kashmiris one way or the other. Now, hundreds of thousands of artisans are suffering and their economic condition is deteriorating owing to lack of support from the ban enforcing agencies, government and even the trade bodies. The artisans' hardships only increased by political and economic uncertainties. Whatever is done, it needs doing now. The children of the artisans are no longer continuing the tradition.
Yos ashi khutmus kalas menis jadas pardadas malis isliye meti ayi varasat virsas mas to yim azik chun yim mana ami kenet ki yiman ma chatla yiman ki
na yim gas ne kar kare yiman gas khoda ke chor karo.
Owing to the restrictions and decreasing incomes, the new generation is not keen to follow their elders, resulting in a break in the continuity of an art that once enjoyed a place of pride.
This is something which needs to be explored because for the sake of the skills which we had over a period of centuries, for the sake of the craft heritage. And this is part of our world heritage. Craft heritage is now accepted as part of the world heritage. It's not localized. It belongs to a very huge and very open domain now, and that domain is certainly global. That's not local.
There were main artisans, there were supporting artisans. So the government has to provide some alternate livelihood to the Shatus traders and workers who were engaged in this trade.
In India, there was a trade that black bears were dancing bears. You must have seen those people, Madaris they were using. Now, if you see the miseries that black bear was going on, that sloth bear goes on, throughout life it remains with him, that rope through his nostril, and it is danced, because those Madaris are getting money for their livelihood. But some people have come forward, they have given alternative to those people, like carpet weaving, like ice cream, some shop, like other things, and by and by that traditional trade of those madaris is now coming down.
تِم چھِ ییٚتہِ پھیران تِمو مسالہٕ ٹاکرِ ہٮ۪تھ کٕنان چھِ بِچارٕ یا تِم ریڈٕ چلاوان تِم چپنہِ کٕنان تِم بنگلادیش پَلو کٕنان چھِنہ کٕنان ژھانٛڈوٲنۍ وۄنۍ ٲسۍ أسۍ تہِ مجبوٗر تی کرنہٕ خٲطرٕ مگر اَسہِ روٗز نہٕ سۄ سخت ضروٗری کینٛہہ اَسہِ تَگہِ ہٮ۪کو نہٕ ریڈَس دَکہٕ دِتھ وۄنۍ بَچہِ چھِ لۄکٕٹۍ چھِ تِم چھِ کران شر برداشت کران یا مکان مزوٗرن درٛایہِ یِمن دٔسلن سۭتۍ.
This is the unfortunate part of the whole thing. You see that something like this happens. Normally, people all over the world safeguard their old art and continuity of the old art. I was recently in Iran. They have very specific problems in regard to production of their carpets because their wages have gone higher. But the government and the people concerned are making all endeavor to safeguard that art in whatever form they can.
It is a problem of the skill levels. You know, it's a very sophisticated and complex process to sort and after due processing spin shatush. It had a different prestige, it had a different level in the craft cycles here. A shatush spinner always was at a higher pedestal than a pashmina spinner.
Pashmina shatush is asman zamin para. Yuzan shatush is asan barik kam. Tas chu ropiye dahti banani asas. Chunki yam satat ban gayi. Automatically pays.
You have to find a solid solution to the problem. It is a real issue within the society, I wouldn't say of the whole Kashmir, at least in Srinagar, where women have lost livelihood because of the ban imposed on shatush.
The challenges lie in the restoration of the shatush to its former glory. Appropriate conservation measures would have to be adopted. Chiru will survive by efficient conservation strategies. Tents need to be fixed in Aksai Chin to explore the survival story of Chiru. Science and humanity would be better served if the survival story of Chiru in Changthang at -40 degrees Celsius is explored by a team of scientists. All this could restore a lost heritage, restore the pride of the Kashmiri people, and go some way in offering them a fair deal. In absence of a balanced action, both the Chiru and the artisans will wither away. The matter is urgent, yet the Chiru are endangered. Poachers are not caught. The livelihood of the thousands of artisans remains endangered.
Hatum gaisna. Yoz yachu do. Yachu agar kam hoite zina chu do Hazrat Fatima kaur. Yachu do.